April 1st, April Fool's Day to some. Would I be the day's fool? The goal? Conquer Tragic Mountain. Long known to theme park enthusiasts as a treacherous, unforgiving collection of mortifying machinery with only one purpose: to make you think that once you leave the safety of the loading platform, you won't be coming back.
Safe is boring. Excitement is the spice of life. Look for thrills and that's where you'll find me. I'm Chuck Lunch, Ride Master.
Chuck Lunch, Ride Master, brought to you by the friendly people at Space Bass.
Before even arriving at the park, I prepared myself for a full day of adventure with a big, nutritious breakfast. When you live as close to the edge as a ride master like myself, you learn to eat every meal like it's your last. Being a ride master is a lonely life. I don't know if it's the risks I take or what, but one by one, all of my friends have given up riding with me. I arrived at the base of Tragic Mountain a few minutes after opening, arriving at a time when the vacationers are still snoozing, but after the first wave of visitors has choked the entrance.
Absolutely no food or beverages are allowed inside the park.
I knew this was going to be a special day when the tram driver took the last curve a little too fast.
If you have an emergency and you need me to stop, please raise one hand up over your head.
For a moment, I had second thoughts about the size of my breakfast, but pushed that queasy feeling to the back of my mind and proceeded into the park. I knew my first stop should be the De-Evolution, a roller coaster that could reduce even a ride master like myself to Neanderthal numbness out of sheer terror. As I boarded the train, I uttered the ride master's creed.
Here we go!
Ride like that first thing in the morning was almost more than I had bargained for. But the De-Evolution couldn't keep me down. The infamous percolator was next on my list, but on my way I couldn't resist sampling one of the delicious examples of theme park culinary fare found around Tragic Mountain. It was a large portion, and I barely finished it before boarding the percolator. The percolator had my insides churning, but I held my ground and did not let it overcome me.
And I'd like you to stay exactly where you are. So I've entered the ride, opened up the exit options, the one that you came on.
The percolator left me a little drained, so I took a moment to catch my breath and get a taste of a theme park delicacy that I hadn't experienced in some time. I topped it off with a pepperoni pizza, which I finished while awaiting my turn to ride Moonshot. Rotating skyward to suspend its victims upside down for what seems like hours, the Moonshot has an ability to flush out the novices from the Ride Master elite. I knew that the name Moonshot would have a new meaning for me after that day, as one of the most exhilarating rides I had ever survived. It had shaken me to the root of my being, but it could not defeat me. Some nourishment was in order, but I skipped by the gourmet outlet to partake in some cotton candy and the saltiest pretzel I could find. I hastily downed it with the yellow slushie and was back on the circuit in no time, hitting the Thrasher, the Smasher, and the Slasher in quick succession.
Are you having fun? No. You're not having fun? You wanna go faster?
They hit me just as hard, but they could not stop me. I knew then that I was ready for the big one. The ride that would shake me to the roots. The most gut-wrenching minute and a half in the park. The local ultimate in thrills. The Monstrous. A mind-boggling collection of merciless drops and turns that guarantee an experience to last a lifetime. The Monstrous promised to be the summit of my visit, the very peak of Tragic Mountain. With all respect befitting this giant, I did not charge madly to the end of its line. Some things cannot be rushed.
Besides, it was time for lunch.
I went by way of the dizzying heights of the Bee's Flight to the section of the park with the greatest concentration of food stands to refuel before embarking on what would surely be the most taxing mission of the day. I knew I couldn't take Monstrous on an empty stomach, so I dined on the best that Tragic Mountain had to offer. Then, consumed by an overpowering urge to satisfy in one last climax my hunger for bone-deep thrills, I lined up for the final test of my endurance. I looked over some of the other thrill seekers, wondering to myself how many of the would-be ride masters will take this ride and still go on seeking even greater levels of excitement, and how many would swear never again. We would see.
Another rider asked to share my carriage. I hoped he knew what he was getting into. I didn't want my concentration on the Monstrous to be broken by some panicking amateur. I hoped my aura of experience would help keep him from coming unglued. As we started up the incline, I freaked. The Monstrous was even bigger than it looked on paper.
The face of the passenger in the seat beside me was blanched with fear. The first drop was a little more than I expected, and I could feel my insides sloshing skyward. The Monstrous hit us with wave after wave of compelling forces. But though it tried to wring me out and hang me up to dry, the Monstrous could not unseat my control. As the last curve gently brought us back to the station, I felt a swell of pride gush from inside of me. I seized the opportunity to reinstate my emblem into the Ridemaster Elite Hall of Fame. Despite the torture that Monstrous had put me through, I felt uniquely uplifted. Never before had I reached the apex of daring that I had, and walked away so calmly. So collected, in fact, that I was immediately ready for a bite to eat before leaving the park.
But first, I wanted to procure a lasting memento of my special day at Tragic Mountain. I'll take it.
I hope they don't move.
I'll take 4. How much are these right here?
$2.
All right, I'll have 4.
Don't I know you from somewhere?
Me?
Are you a ride master?
I guess. Hey.
Yeah.
I had done it. I had come to Tragic Mountain and I had conquered it. Or had I? Or had the mountain simply let me slip by? Whatever the case, I had a feeling that this place would leave me with something that would last longer than ordinary memories. No sooner had my trip home begun than all the feelings of the day came back to me in a rush. All the thrills, all the chills, all the excitement of every ride came over me all at once. I nearly exploded with the realization that I had left my mark on this Ridemaster proving ground. As I drove away, I knew that it had left its mark on me as well.